What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Dr. Vincent Esposito, and today we are talking about my favorite healthy eating hacks. But before we get to that, if you haven't already, please subscribe. I'm coming out with new videos twice a week, so if you're looking for any nutrition, lifestyle advice going forward, really appreciate that because I will be coming out with it very often. So we're gonna jump right into it today. We're gonna start with number one, which is really important. It's stop with the dieting. Listen, if diets worked, we would not have an obesity and diabetes problem here in the States and even a growing problem all over the world. So it's really all about shifting that mindset, getting to a place where you realize it's going to take more sustainable, long-term changes going forward. And it's just little things you do maybe each week, each month that are going to play a role and that are more importantly sustainable long-term. This is really the problem with diet culture altogether, is you might do something for maybe 2-3 months, 6 months if you're really lucky. But often what happens is it becomes too restrictive, too confining, and it really affects your social life, how you interact with others, and it becomes a real issue long term, and people kind of just give up and fall into old habits. So get in the mindset of creating little new habits each week that you can build upon that are more importantly sustainable long term. That's the key. The next one, depending on how intense you want to get with it, is called the 80-20 rule or the 90-10 rule. And this is something I try to abide to on a weekly basis as well. Essentially is if you're eating well, if you're following a whole foods nutritious food plan throughout your week, and I'll link my video on what I do on a weekly basis above, you can use that 10 to 20% to have fun, go out for drinks with friends, or have a meal, go out to dinner, do things that you kind of want, have dessert. You have that room to play with. But you have to be honest with yourself and stick to that 80 to 90%. To put that in perspective, if say you're eating 3 meals a day, that's 21 meals in a week. If you're hitting 80%, that's something like 17 to 18 meals you're sticking to that whole foods plant-based approach versus the other 3 where you can kind of play around or use one to say go out with drinks for friends. Number 3 on the list is you eat what you see. So what does that mean? Generally, especially when we're home, we tend to gravitate towards what foods are most readily available. So if the chips and snacks are very easy to reach in the cupboard, that's going to be the thing we grab or gravitate towards versus say like a piece of fruit or some vegetables or things like that. So it's more of an out of sight, out of mind thing. So take the time to rearrange your cabinets, have your fruits and vegetables more accessible, and hide or maybe even get rid of some of those processed foods and things of that nature, because if they're not around, if they're out of sight, they're out of mind. Number 4 on the list is to pre-prep smoothies ahead of time. So if you do like smoothies, I suggest cutting up all your ingredients and placing them into single containers where you could throw them in the freezer and pull them out as you need them. Now, a couple tricks you can actually use. I know not everyone loves using banana as the sweetener, so if you want, you can use frozen zucchini or chopping up zucchini as a thickener without the sweetness. Another thing you can do is actually puree cannellini beans, because they will actually have a similar effect, but also you'll get some of those quality B vitamins, the fiber, and the protein that you might not get from something, say, like a banana. The next big one is don't drink your calories. And I talked about in my last video how a can of Coke has about 40 grams of sugar in it. But also the bigger things are coffees and lattes. So if you are a coffee drinker or a tea drinker and you like getting that out, look for unsweetened ones or try to get them black or without the added milk or additives or sweeteners or less pumps of syrup. Limit the calories you're drinking, because that's a very easy way to limit your total calorie count going forward. Number 6 on the list is get more berries in. Now, berries actually include the most antioxidants for any food group on the planet. So if you can get some sort of berries, maybe it's a handful a day, especially in the summer when they're readily available, try to incorporate them as much as you can, whether it's as a snack, during breakfast, even as a dessert. Really great to get them in. Also, in colder places like here in the Northeast in New York, if stock up on berries over the summer and then cut them ahead of time, you can freeze them and use them going forward, which is a really neat hack to use for the rest of the year when they're not available. Number 7 is add more spices into what you're eating. Now, along with berries, spices have the highest amounts of antioxidants in them per any food group on the planet. Now, we have done a couple different podcast episodes. I will try to link those in the description below, where we go over how different spices are very helpful and beneficial overall to our health. So check those out. Along with that though, add different spices. They add a ton of different flavors to different dishes, and find a few that you like and try to incorporate them more often. If you like using fresh herbs, that's great. And there's a couple ways you could preserve them. So if you want, you can chop them up ahead of time and then freeze them with some water in an ice tray. So especially in the summer, if you can't get to them for some reason, or in the winter when you cannot get to them for some reason, use them and go to that ice tray, and you can kind of pick them out as you're going. And also put blends of different herbs and spices together before you add them to that ice tray. So if you like a certain combination of certain herbs, you can place them together in that ice tray, and then you have that as a go-to for the rest of the year. Number 8 is try to add more nuts and seeds, especially seeds when you can. So I personally love things like chia seeds, flax seeds, sunflower seeds, sesame seeds. They add a ton of different antioxidants, phytonutrients that you're not really getting from a lot of different food sources. And they're very easy to use in smoothies, but there's a couple other things you can do as well. For example, one trick I've used in the past is, say if I got a new jar of almond butter or cashew butter or something, you take about a quarter to a third of it out, and you put it in another container to use later, and then you fill that remaining third up with different seeds or nuts or something like that. Not only does it add a different texture to what you now have, but you also now have the added benefits of more fiber and different nutrients that you're not just getting from, say, the almond butter just by itself. The next one is great if you're looking to get more greens in, and that's adding spinach to sauces and soups. So this is something I actually use on a fairly frequent basis. So if I'm making, say, lentil soup or something like that, what I'll do is I'll make my soup according to the recipe, and then the last 2 minutes, I'll just throw some spinach in. It'll wilt down. It really doesn't add anything to the flavor, and it doesn't affect anything in terms of consistency or anything like that, but it's a very easy way to sneak a leafy green into what you're eating. So do that with some spinach. Number 10 is to plan ahead. Now this is actually a really easy hack if you have, say, a calendar or planner. If you're planning meals ahead of time, it's much easier to stay on schedule and on track, and you're not as likely to deviate from it because you know what's available and what you're going to do. So one thing I love doing is meal prepping, especially on weekends, especially for lunches in particular. So I'll take a couple hours out of the day and I'll make my lunches for the week, whether it's making a single lunch I'll have for the week or 3 to 4 to 5 different components that I can mix and match, and I know what's available, and then I'm kind of done. So planning ahead is really key if you're looking to maintain a more healthy lifestyle. And finally, number 11 on the list is batch cook. So I love doing this again with sauces, with soups, with curries. If you know you're gonna make it, just make extra and freeze the rest, because that'll help save you any decisions you might have to make down the road if you're in a pinch. Maybe you're running late from work, or you know you're gonna get home late for some reason. You have something that you can go to in a pinch that you know is healthy. So make things in bulk and just freeze it. It's very easy to use, and it'll save a lot of time going forward. And those are some of my favorite healthy eating hacks. I hope you found this video helpful. If you have, please like and subscribe below. Again, I'm coming out with these videos twice a week. And if I missed something that you like doing it yourself, please comment below. I'd love to see, something I might want to incorporate going forward too. And I want to keep that dialogue open. So until then, I really hope you enjoyed this, and take care, guys.